Some people ask me how I got interested in knowledge that might be considered a bit out there. So today I'm going to share with you a story about an extraordinary experience that impacted how I see life and reality. I promise you it's 100% true. All I ask is that you suspend disbelief for a moment and consider the possibility that it's true, or that I'm half mad or totally mad. My name is Marcus T. Anthony. I'm a futurist interested in the futures of mind, consciousness, and technology. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel if you find it thought-provoking, which I think you will. So let's do this. The year was 1996, and I was living in Coffs Harbour, New South Wales, Australia, a small coastal town. One day I was walking along a downtown street and I saw a sign that read, "Psychic readings, $10. Yep, it was the 90s. Now, I'd never had a psychic reading before, and curiosity got the better of me. So I went inside, where I met a woman of only middle-aged named Leslie Halverson, who proceeded to give me a reading. Now, the reading itself was nothing particularly special, but what followed certainly was. To cut a long story short, I ended up attending Leslie's weekly meditation evenings at a lodge just out of town. A few weeks later, and at the end of one of her sessions, she told everybody present that she had had lots of dreams about UFOs the previous night. Yes, UFOs. She said, "Last time I had these kinds of dreams, the local media was full of stories of UFOs the next day. So, if you go out tonight, you could see something. It should be at about 2 in the morning. Unquote. Now, being the gullible fool that I am, I decided to take up the offer. I went to bed at about 11 p.m., but set my alarm for 1:45 in the morning. Yes. When the alarm rang, on that clear but cool winter's evening, I managed to drag myself out of bed. I stumbled around the house for about 5 minutes, and then headed outside at 1:50 a.m. sharp. It's still in my diary. My eyes almost popped out of my head when I swung the door open and looked up into the starry night sky. For flying directly in my line of vision was something I shall never forget till the day I die. I can only describe it as a large ball of luminous white light, about a third the size of a full moon. It's hard to estimate, but the great orb was probably several hundred meters distant, flying in a straight line and at a uniform elevation a few hundred meters above the horizon. It was moving rapidly eastward towards the nearby beach, at about 30 degrees above that horizon. There was absolutely no sound, and it was shimmering, seemingly gliding on air. I can only describe it as eerily unearthly, due to the iridescent corona around it. I ran out onto the road and watched it disappear over the neighbours' houses. In total, it was in clear view for about 30 seconds. Now, understandably, I was in a rather excitable state, and I ran down to the beach, which was only a few hundred meters from where I lived. I walked up and down the beach for an hour, scanning the skies, but the mysterious orb was nowhere to be seen. Finally, I gave up and decided to head back to bed. I walked back down the short street to my home and trudged up the driveway. Then, as I was about to duck under the doorway, I'm rather tall, I looked up one last time. Once again, my eyes nearly jumped out of my head. I saw something equally as amazing as the ball of light I'd witnessed just 1 hour before. From moving high above the night sky, almost directly above where I stood, there was a group of about 20 red, circular, glowing lights or discs flying in a double V formation, one V inside the other. A bit like this. One set of lights on the outside, one set on the inside. Again, there was no sound, just eerie silence. The object, or objects, flew in a southerly direction, parallel to the coast but slightly inland. They appeared to be a few hundred meters in the air, though once again it was difficult to determine precisely. Within a minute, they disappeared across the horizon. Now, I've had quite a few interesting experiences since that day, but probably none quite so extraordinary as what I witnessed that night. Of all the things that set me on a path of questioning the dominant knowledge structures of Western society, it set me on a road to exploring human intelligence and possible human futures, this experience was probably the most significant. What were those things that I saw that night? How on earth did Leslie Halverson know that they were going to be there at that precise time, merely from a dream? In what ways does the possibility of that kind of extraordinary human ability challenge what we believe we know about the human mind and its limits? Further, why are these kinds of phenomena still largely a taboo topic in modern science and academia to this day? I asked these questions 30 years ago, and I'm still asking them now. The difference today is I now feel that I have a much deeper understanding of the answers. Perhaps not so much the answers to life, the universe, and everything, but to the reasons why our establishment, science, and institutions, and the people within them, have so much difficulty in discussing such big problems. One of the themes that you'll see me regularly exploring here on the Power and Presence channel is the relationship between what we believe about the human mind, the subsequent way that those beliefs limit how we use our minds, and how that in turn impacts the way we are now constructing our technologies. Most pertinently, artificial intelligence. We must be careful that we do not trap ourselves in an unnecessarily restrictive mindscape and future by constructing virtual spaces that allow us to embody only those aspects of human intelligence that we believe in. For that would truly be an artificial intelligence. Think about that. See you again in the futures.